Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider podcast. The Raiders lose again. They now fall to 2-10 on the season, 5 games remaining down at SoFi, where it wasn't a real pretty event. There were some things that came out of it that were very good. There were some things that we can absolutely learn. There was some reports today about Pete Carroll on the hot seat. We're going to address all of that in this complete recap of the game. First of all, 31-14. I told everyone coming in the game what were fair expectations, what were not fair expectations. The fair expectations was that you would expect there to be some different conceptual looks, some different ways of doing things. We did see that. You saw Caleb Rogers get to start at right guard. You saw the game start with Geno Smith under center, running the football. You saw some more of that kind of stuff. Those are all things that we needed to see, and we did see in all. And I've not seen the final participation report, but in all that we could document, there were 10 rookies that played today. Caillou Blue Kelly got another interception. Greedy Vance did some things that looked good. Darian Porter right there, 3 rookie defensive backs. When you're playing that many rookies, you expect your team not to be very good, and they weren't. Now, what would have been some unfair expectations? I said I expected the Raiders to lose. They did. It doesn't change the fact on a holiday week, you had 3 practices. You're not going to overhaul the entire offense, although you certainly saw the same play structures and some other things. You did see some different blocking, which was a big deal, and you did see some different usage. But this still is the same roster. They can't go out and overhaul the roster. There's no OTAs, no mini camps. Overall, they didn't win, but they did score 17 points. And I thought the offense looked better than we've seen it under Chip Kelly. Does that mean it was definitively awesome? No. This is a game that, the Raiders could have had if they had a legitimate offense. But I don't think it's fair to place those expectations on Ole literally 3 days in. I expect it to be better next week. I do. I think it will be much better next week because I think the more opportunity that this offense gets, the more opportunity that this offense gets and the more opportunity that Ole gets to improve it and to make adjustments, you're going to see that show up and resonate. So there is that. Again, I thought that there could have been more, but 10 rookies that we noticed that stood out in a very big way. On the day, Geno Smith was 18 of 23, 164 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a QB rating of 107.4. Not great, not bad. Now, I didn't think and I don't think that the Chargers offensive line is fantastic, but you saw the difference that a quarterback makes. You saw that difference of what a special quarterback can make. Now, I'm going to say this to you because I don't believe in revisionist history. What Jim Harbaugh has done with Justin Herbert, has been extremely impressive. A lot like Sean Payton with Bo Nix, in that he asks Herbert to do what he can. Herbert's just a significantly better player, in my opinion. And that's exactly what they did. But you could see when the Chargers offensive line was breaking down, I mean, they lose Alt. They have not the best offensive line. Herbert was able to get away. You saw them creating plays. I don't think it is being unfair in any way to say, when was the last time you saw Geno just absolutely put something on his back and make a monster play? I don't think we've seen that. We've seen him do some things good. Now we've seen Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers had 2 great touchdowns today, but one of them may have been the catch of the year. May have been the catch of the year in all of the National Football League. Phenomenal catch. one hand under the ball. It was just unbelievable. So you saw Brock bail him out. You've seen Brock make big plays, but that's not something that you've seen a lot from with Gino. Here is my question. You're 2-10 now. Clearly, you're not a big fan in Kenny Pickett because you played Gino on one leg. Is it now not time for Pete or maybe Spytek and Brady's the quarterback guy? Maybe they're like, no, we don't believe in Pickett. We don't believe in we don't believe in Pickett, and we don't believe in um Aiden. So we're just going to keep riding with Gino, which Brady did believe in. That's why they made the trade. And but if they think there could be something with Aiden, or if they're not sure that there's something with Aiden, or if they think, okay, Gino, we still got another year, we're going to keep him around because we're going to probably draft a rookie and we're going to want to develop them, then put him down and let Aiden play. But again, if you're not sold on Aiden or Kenny, then fine, don't. But if you think that there's a chance with Aiden, or you think there's a chance with keeping Gino around for next year, and I still think there's a good chance Gino's here next year. No, nobody wants to hear that, but I think that's a very good chance. Then I think you got to look in that direction. I think you got to look at something. And at this point now, just trotting them out there. The offensive line, Kappa at center. Again, Caleb Rogers was in there. I'm going to rewatch the tape before I give you a big evaluation on Caleb Rogers. I want to rewatch the tape and specifically key in on him. There was a few things I noticed. I thought he did okay. A few things I noticed. He looked like a rookie getting his first start, that's not abnormal. That's normal. Remember, I told you last year's Brock Bowers is the unicorn. But there were some things that stood out to me. I got asked today a question that I thought was fair. And, I'm telling you, Chip Kelly was able to do what Chip Kelly wanted with the offense. I know there are some people saying that Pete interfered. I don't believe that. I don't believe it, and I have reason to believe it. And if you think it's from Pete, it's not. But what I will tell you is someone asked me, there are reports that Pete interfered. I said, no, I don't believe that. And I have reason to believe it because I was told by someone, not Pete, that Pete didn't interfere, that Chip had a ton of leeway with this offense. So I believe that. But what I will tell you is I know that Pete has had say in the defense, and that's just the reality. I'm not going to pretend it isn't because that he has. But there was a report on, I think it was on NFL Network. It was with Ian Rappaport, about Pete being on the hot seat. And whether you think that's right or not, that is a factual report. That is an actual report. I believe the Raiders are reviewing every single part of this team. And whether you agree with that or disagree, either way, that is factual. And so there's a lot of things that are going to go into the future. And someone said to me today, how many do you think that report by Ian Rappaport and NFL Network's true? And I said, 100%. I've been told they're going to review everything. And then they said, how many games do you think Pete has to win to keep his job? I don't think it has anything to do with winning games. Matter of fact, if they went out and reel off the next 5, I don't think that's going to go over very well. The Jets did lose, so the Raiders move up. I think they're third now. If the NFL draft were held today, it's not, but I think they're third. Thanks to the Jets winning uselessly. But I think Pete Carroll needs to absolutely continue to evaluate that win now. And I think him and Spy, and Tom and Mark all need to figure out a game plan that everybody can come into agreement with. Here is what I would tell you is the big thing about this team. Okay. If it were Hondo, and it's not, but talking to people around the league, I want to go back for a minute. Tom Brady's taken a lot of heat right now. Okay. And I think some of it very much deserved. But he's a first time owner here. Now he's had some influence for a little while. His influence goes back to started really strong. I think it was there before, but it was really strong in the McDaniels era. Not before, but definitely starting the Josh McDaniels era for sure. Strong influence. I know that factually. Was told that by people in the building that every decision that Tom was in on, or certainly had influence on a lot of decisions. As a matter of fact, I think at the time the quote was a big or a major influence, something like that. And so, but he's out there now. This is his first year. And, he didn't want a Sam Darnold. He was okay with a wanted, arguably, a Geno Smith. He wanted Chip Kelly. And these decisions were made. I think the criticism is fair, just like I think some of the criticism of Pete is fair. But you're also dealing with a guy in his first time. And so, while I'm not averse to being critical of Tom at all, I think it also, if you're going to give people grace in their first year, you owe that to Tom Brady. Spytech, first year. Okay. You can go back to Spillane, you can go back to other issues. I exonerated him in the Spillane. I think there have been some decisions that he's made that were not the right decisions. I don't think he should be fired. I think Pete Carroll, in some situations, was put in a bad spot. And in some situations, I think he put himself in a bad spot. I was asked today in an interview, someone said to me, he fires two coordinators. What about his sons? And I said to someone on the interview today, if all of the bad decisions with the offensive line were on Brennan Carroll, I absolutely feel like that. But I know with certainty that not all of them were Brennan. He had a boss. I know that factually. So again, you got to look at that. But you can go back and watch the podcasts of the offseason last year, because I made it extremely clear to you, abundantly clear, by the way, that if you hired Pete Carroll, his kids were coming with him. So if the Raiders don't like the performance of his kids, that's fine, but they knew that's what comes with Pete. Now, if I'm Pete, and let me tell you something, if Pete's kids were not performing, I don't have any reason to believe that he would retain them. I don't. Now, he is not one to fire any coaches mid-year. He had to fire Tom McMahon. And quite frankly, he had to fire Chip Kelly. I'm going to leave it there. We'll get into more of that in the offseason. I don't know that any coach on this staff, I think I can think of some who should be safe, but there's a lot who I don't think should be, because they're going to have to go through internally and say, look at everything. But I just want to make it clear, the Raiders knew what they were getting. So if Spytek and Brady or Mark Davis are unhappy that at any coach on this staff, Pete's kids or anyone else's, you have to look at, okay, who wanted this coach? Who wanted that coach? Et cetera, et cetera. You got to look at that stuff. And I think that's all. But one thing is certain with this organization. Everybody has to get on the same page. And the win now mentality, while admirable, is going to waste the final 5 games unless it continues on a pattern which we saw today, which was a pattern of that was not an all out pattern of win now. There were some decisions made today that you saw that were not, and I'm okay with that. If I'm Spytech and I'm Mark Davis and I'm Tom Brady, I sit down with Pete and say, listen, throw any rookie that we think has a shot of being part of this long term in there. We're going to sit Gino. We're going to play Aiden. We're going to sit Max. Put everybody in there. That way, if we keep losing, great. We're just getting better draft picks. And we're also playing a lot of rookies, getting some really good looks. If there is anybody that's part of the future here who's young and need reps, they should be in the ball game. Raider fans okay with that. Raider fans are already okay with that. But Raider fan needs a definitive statement. John Spytek, if he does not fire Tom Brady, will speak at the combine. And when he does, I'm going to say to him, you know, there was some differences there, and it was just year one, which is understandable. But what have you guys done to get on the same page so we don't see a repeat of last year as far as different pages for different people? And if Pete Carroll isn't back, I'm going to ask him the same question. What did you learn from last year to make sure everybody's on the same page? Now, I'm telling you, talking to a lot of people around the NFL, this is not going to be an attractive job. So either they're going to have to make some big time assurances to a big time coach, or they're going to have to go the youth route. And if you go the youth route, you are really rolling the dice. Really rolling the dice. And I'm sorry, I'll make it clear right now. I'm not rooting against the franchise. But if you go the youth route, you better hope they hit big. And those guys usually don't, but you better hope they do. Because the way this franchise now has been conditioned, you go get a young coach and he has a rough year, and next year could very well be pretty rough. Then your fan base is going to be calling to get him fired again. And you're right back where you are. So that's the wait that you have to wait. Can we all get on the same page with Pete? And if not, are we willing to overpay with a coach that we can all get on the same page with? Or do we go with a new guy, a new beginner? And then we're probably going to have to help him put together a staff. And what if that doesn't work? Because, you know, those are all things you got to look at. There are so many pieces to this that go into this. And I think these last 5 games are total evaluation. Total evaluation. No doubt whatsoever. You've got to look at every opportunity with a magnifying glass over the totality of the organization. But I want to just say this. I have no problem with the fan base being frustrated. No problem with it. They should be. They are not the ones to blame here. But I think you also now need to just spend this time, put on blinders, and get a plan and stick to a plan. I want to go back, and I've reiterated this before. 2 major points. Bill Polian, the terrific general manager, you may remember his entire career, many believe one of the best general managers in the history of the National Football League, believed in Peyton Manning, picked him. After Peyton Manning's rookie year, people in Indianapolis wanted him fired. They wanted, I remember one particular, I was told this story. I don't remember it when it happened. I remember because I was told this. One person in that organization talked about there was a very loudmouth media member talking about trade Peyton for a bologna sandwich. only ended up probably being a top 5 quarterback in NFL history. Polian didn't care. He had on his blinders, and I remember talking to Jim Irsay about it. I mean, I personally spoke to Jim Irsay about it, and how he totally trusted Polian, and it didn't matter to them about how toxic everything was. They had conviction, stuck to their convictions. At some point, the Raider brass has to get so totally behind something that they can have conviction. It just can't be, oh, we got to do something. The fans are mad. The fans are mad because you're losing. You know how you change that? You change it by winning. If the organization doesn't like the way the media is reporting, oh, you guys are too negative, then win. Give us something positive. I can tell you this, and you may not agree with it, but of the beat writers, of which I know all the media members who cover this team, they're really good people. Good people who I like and consider many of them friends. I can't think of any of them who are on the beat here that I don't like. We've talked among ourselves. We don't like reporting on a negative franchise every year. I am a person who lives life, and I look at a glass of water as half full, not half empty. I am a guy that looks at every breath I take as a blessing. I am a guy who approaches life every single day. I don't have to be the Raiders beat writer. I get to. I know I get laughed at, including by other media, because I'll put tweets out thanking you guys for the privilege of being your beat writer. But I'm sorry, I mean that. It is a privilege to cover this franchise. It's a privilege to be a beat writer in the National Football League. Are there people who can be negative? Yeah, there are. There are. But it's a privilege. And so I don't want that. And so today we did see some changes, but with the same roster and the same injuries, we saw a lot of the same issues. So, how do the Raiders fix it? 3 points. Number one, approach these last five games of the year, win in 26. Not the win now, win in 26. How do you do that? You do a full scale youth movement. Number one. Number two, begin everybody on the same page. If it were Hondo, I would be on the page with Pete Carroll because of his track record. He's the only guy here that isn't the first year guy. And he's the only guy that has a proven track record when he's totally in charge. He listens to other people, he gets input, but he stays his face like a flint. But if you don't want it to be Pete, that's fine. It's not my team. I don't have a vested interest. Whoever you want that voice to be. If it's going to be Tom, then you go to Tom and say, you pick the coach, you decide what everything. And Tom, 100% of the responsibility is on your shoulders. You do it. But none of this. Pete says, of course, we'd be, I'm paraphrasing here, we'd be dumb not to have Tom, Mark Davis. Yep. Look at quarterbacks. Mark Davis. Oh, yeah. Tom's going to be our quarterback guy. John Spytek after the draft. Oh, here's what Tom liked about Cam Miller. And then Tom, I didn't have anything to do with it. Well, come on. 3 members of your organization. Just if Tom's going to do it, I'm okay with that. I've told you this. Tom and I have mutual friends, and they love him. They don't like him. They love him. They believe in him. I have told you before, Tom Brady is a man of integrity. That is a man that, above all else, he learned from his father. His parents were great parents long before Tom Brady was a great quarterback. And Tom Brady is a great father. Okay, those are all good things. It may turn out to be a great football owner. He may turn out to suck. We don't know. But I'm just telling you, so I'm going to give that man the benefit of a doubt. His quarterbacking and his acumen, giving him the benefit of a doubt. So you know what? Year one, mulligan year. Okay, great. If you want Tom to be that guy, then have Tom be that guy, accept that responsibility. If you don't want Tom to be that guy and you want Spytek, then great. Put Spytek in charge. If you want it to be Tom Brady, I mean Pete Carroll, then put Pete there. I would go the Pete route because I wouldn't fire Spytek and you're not getting rid of Brady. So I would go the Pete Carroll route. Other people I talk to in the NFL who are part of winning organizations would go with the Pete Carroll route. But whatever route, nobody cares. Just get on the same freaking page. That's number two. And number three, then go attack the offseason. I mean, the moment the season's over, cut out any coaches that you need to fire, bring in new guys, get on the page, and immediately attack the offseason. Those are the three things you can do right now. But right now, with this roster, the way the NFL is structured with collective bargaining, you're not going to see a lot of change. You're going to see some, and we did see some today, but pretty similar results. And the Raiders got to get out of their own way to fix this. And I just told you the three ways to get out of their own way. So the complete recap is they lost, but they won because their draft position improved. There were some things that look good. You got to love seeing those rookies. I mean, the game of football is pretty simple. Don't turn the ball over. Tackle and block. And I guess, throwing and catching is part of that, obviously. But the basics are tackling and blocking. Both of them. The Raiders are deficient. No, that's just reality. Got to fix it. And you got to fix it quick. I gave you the three reasons. How do the Raiders get out of their own way? Those are the three. Now they got to do it. All right, everybody. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.